Pleasure to have you here, mate.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. It's more privilege. What do I need to know about you growing up that will let me know the person I've got in front of me now?
The person I am today isn't the person I was then. So I think who I was in my teenage years, I'm a completely different person now. I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a local lad. I live just over the road, really, Waterville, by the reservoir.
Perfect for you then.
Yeah, it's perfect for me. So, and my mum still lives in the house that we grew up in.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so council estate. There was me, my mum and brother. So my dad left home at 7. And we had some contact with my dad and stuff, we had to go and see him on a Sunday and all that sort of thing. My mum worked hard, so we never went without. So I had a great childhood. She's so hard working and never be able to pay her back really. She's took care of me and my brother. And she worked so hard, we used to have to go and stay with a neighbour after school and stuff like that. Marianne, she took care of us. And then, pretty normal childhood, I look back on my childhood, I've got so many fond memories, but it was different then. There was no phones, or you were either out in your BMXs, playing football over the park, or climbing trees, so I had a great childhood. I wouldn't change anything, really. Massively good group of friends, some of which I'm still friends with now, so our friendships lasted a lifetime, really, to be honest. So, and I was with a couple of them yesterday. Then we moved into teenage years. I went to Oakland school, so a Catholic school. Each to their own. I'm not a religious guy, but that was a good school. Didn't do massively great, I wasn't a grade A student and stuff like that. Then the teenage years is sort of, I don't know, like most of us really. I wasn't an angel in my teenage years and got into some bits and pieces and trouble and stuff like that, which I look back on now and would I change it? I wouldn't want to upset people and stuff, but not great.
I think it shapes you into the person you are now.
Yeah, and I often look back and I'm a big reflector on my life really, of what I could have done better, and even at work and stuff, I always look and think, could we improve on that sort of thing? I think my regret is, you wouldn't want to worry your mum and stuff. And I think I worried my mum in my teenage years and stuff. And off the rails really, all sorts of things I got into and bits and pieces, and lots of it not proud of. And then there was a conversation, so I had what shall we put it? So an altercation in a pub, and I thought I was great, and I wasn't great. And somebody said to me, look, and they must have saw something, because they said, look, Sads, you're a good bloke and all this sort of stuff, and you're on a bad road really. So why don't you put all this energy and we see the good in you, and join the fire service. So a typical young 20-year-old lad turned around and said, what do you know? I don't want to do that. I was a welder at the time actually for the MOD, but I couldn't lose it, so I went home. Because when I turned around, and it was 2 guys called Ralph Hutton and Phil Stairs, and they said, Sads, why don't you join the fire service? I said, no, And then Phil said to Ralph, I told you he wouldn't bother. He's not man enough for the fire service, and then that stuck. So normally I can shake lots of stuff off at that age, and you're sort of indestructible. But I went home and I couldn't sleep, and I kept tossing and turning. And the comment of I'm not man enough and I wouldn't have that spirit to do it, or brave enough, or whatever those qualities you need to be a firefighter, I thought, no, I can't. And so on the Monday night, I turned up at Waterville Fire Station, and then sort of the rest is history, really.
So would you say that the comment about told you we shouldn't have bothered, he's not man enough to be in the fire service, was that sort of a point of proving it to yourself, or was it more proving the doubters, would you say?
Do it's weird, because I think where I get that determination and like for the row and like sort of my character, I think because my dad didn't live with me, I think I stepped up really early subconsciously.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to you before. That's quick, don't you?
Yeah, because I wanted probably at the age of 8, 9, 10, you were almost a man of the house. My mum's single, my little brother's younger, and there's a responsibility that comes with that. So I always like to think I'll step up to the plate on that. So if someone, I don't know where it comes from. I've spoken to my mum about it quite recently actually, about where if somebody says that I can't do something, I don't know what it is, whether it's to prove the person that says it doubts it, or maybe to prove it to myself. And I think if you bring that forward to the row, with no arrogance, I always knew I could do the row, but I still wanted to prove it to myself.
Yeah.
Do you know? So I think we're capable of a lot more than we actually think we are. I think you can really push yourself. So the fire service, was it on my bucket list to do and all that sort of stuff? No, not really. But it was a challenge, and it's probably one of the best conversations I've ever had, because I haven't looked back since that day.
So,
really.
so how did that pan out? So you walked into the fire service.
Walked into the fire service at Waterville. And Ralph and Phil Stairs are there. They're both long retired, lovely guys, still friends with them now. Walked in and said, "Look, I'm here," and then the rest was history. So those two guys obviously saw something in me. You know, the fire service has changed massively over the years, but those qualities initially that would get you into the fire service, they must have saw something in me, good in me. And I learned very quickly after that, actually, that if you had a scrap, or you're rude to somebody, and just that normal teenage behaviour, which I'm not proud of, I very, very quickly learned if you help somebody, and that could be helping an old lady across the road, or opening a door for someone, or picking up shopping, or whatever it may be, exactly the work you're doing for everybody now, the feeling you get from actually helping someone is far, far greater than not helping anybody at all. 100%. So now I'm in a job where I actually do that every day. So I'm sort of privileged to get, so that feeling you get of making a difference in what you're doing now, helping people, I'll get that feeling every day. And that's, if you're in a position where you can do that, you're the richest man in the world, really. And
it's that saying of, like, if you're waking up and you're going to do something that you love every day, it's not a job, it's
a vocation. Yeah. So it wasn't really a calling, because my dad wasn't in the fire service, or Sad, you're always going to be a firefighter, and it was something I thought, do you know what? And I wouldn't change it, because whether you help people by the work you're doing, whether it's charity work, whether it's through my professional, putting out fires and stuff like that, it's helping people. And there's no greater feeling from helping somebody, especially less fortunate than you as well. So
yeah. So obviously, how long did you say that you've been there? 26 years?
26 years.
Do you know what? That's longer than I've been alive.
Cheers, George.
No problem.
Legend, eh? Amazing. I appreciate that.
So 26 years, I can imagine that you've gone through some tough times and some challenges where, has there been moments where you've sort of gone, this is a bit much? Sort of scared, or has it always just been that? It's
really, really strange. So fear's a real strange one for me. So I've been asked about the service and calls I've been on, and especially the road when the weather's really bad, and all of those things. I don't know what's different with me, but I don't get scared at the time. I have a thing called delayed fear. So at an incident, the fire service is brilliant. Don't forget, it can look dramatic, like on London's burning.
Yeah.
And there are occasions when it's like that, but don't forget the training you train. So almost that sort of becomes your norm.
Instinctive.
And there's been a couple of occasions in my career I've come close, a few times and stuff. And I think most emergency services would say that to you. And then you go home after that call, and then you instantly, that transition from that adrenaline rush of being in that situation to laying in bed, that transition is quite difficult. And then you sort of reflect on what you've just been, or the incident you've just been to and stuff, and you almost get scared then, which is strange, because you're scared of something that's happened in the past.
Yeah.
Not about it happening in the future. It's like...
And I think as well, it's that where in the moment it's like you say, where you train, it's almost instinctive to what you're doing.
Absolutely.
But then afterwards, it's sort of that reflection of, then you sort of break down what actually you was experiencing. Yeah. I understand that.
It's a weird thing, and people ask me about that. And so at the time, I don't think I've ever been scared on a call and stuff. But there was one call, actually. So I went on a wildfire fighting course in America, Oregon, for 3 weeks. It was amazing. And you couldn't time it, George, but whilst I was at, it was one of the biggest wildfires that the US has had. It was called the Canyon Creek Complex Fire. So the fire was actually bigger than Hampshire.
Wow.
So we get put on a station, and we do all this training courses, and they're the loveliest people I've ever met, and I'm going to go back and see them at some point. And the fire station I turned out from was Sisters. And the bells go off, we jump on the truck and I get dressed, and that's normally what you do. And the old guy next to me, he says, "You want to chill out?" And I said, "Oh, what's that?" And he said, "Mate, we've got an 8.5 hour drive to get there." And you think that'd be like driving from here to Scotland.
Wow.
So I thought, right, he said, "You want to get your head down, mate?" And it was such a different way of doing things, so vast. And I thought, cool, we'll get stuck. And when you get there, I spent 7 days there. And I was on a night shift, so I worked through the night and tried to sleep through the day. But there was this one time, we evacuated this family one night, and there was this big ranch, and I was with a guy, a captain called Kurt Solomon. Still friends with him, he's retired now, but I'm still friends with him on Facebook. A very, very experienced fire captain. And it was just a wall of flame, and I can remember vividly, we stood on our hose lines, and they do things slightly different out there. I don't mean to be disrespectful, gun ho, I wouldn't have been in that position in the UK fire service. And I actually said, this thing's coming towards you, we had enough hose lines. The idea was we would set up almost a water wall and protect this properly, the fire would go around. And I'm thinking, there's no chance we're going to do this. But I was in his hands, and you get that feeling around you that when everybody else isn't confident either. Super important.
Yeah.
I even got the feeling that he wasn't that confident, to be fair, but I thought, I'm here now. And I said goodbye to my wife at the time and my kids. I said goodbye to them, and I thought, I'm not going to come through this. So, and at that point, I was probably scared, to be fair. I thought, but I've just got to stick with it, And we lived to tell the tale. It was horrendous. It came and went through, and and obviously the guy made the right call. And I said afterwards, we had a chat. I said, you confident about that, but he's adamant. He said, "No, I knew we'd get, So that's probably the only time operation that I've been actually thought, so this is game over for you, really."
Wow.
So, but I think in the UK we're on it really. I think there's been a couple of times, but we train really hard and stuff. So
I think I can only commend what you emergency services do, and I think very rarely do we put ourselves in their shoes as to what they have to go through. Like, just as a member of the public, I think when you see the things that happen, sometimes when we read, there's been there's been a fire, say, and reading it is one thing, seeing a video of it is another thing. But sitting with someone who's able to talk to you about the actual first-hand experience of it, I think it sort of puts in perspective and it sort of gives me a better picture as well of your mindset. It's like you say, that face things head on, and
it's really weird for me. So I remember places. So I go past places, like even everywhere I drive around here and bits and pieces, I will always, no matter what I'm doing, so I will always go back to that night. So I'll drive past a house and I'll remember what happened that night. Probably more fatalities and end of life calls and stuff. So I remember junctions, roads. It's a real weird thing. So that's a strange thing for me. But and everybody's different on how they deal with with those types of incidents and stuff.
How do you process them experiences? So, because I remember speaking to when I was at a workshop down the village, and we had some firemen there, and I remember one of them turning around and saying that he didn't know how to process going home and talking to his family about what he'd gone through that night. But then at the same time, your colleagues are also in the same situation. Where are you in that position to be able to sit down with them and have that conversation, because you've all gone through that experience?
Yeah, I think if we go back to when I started in the fire service, it was tough. So, I got posted to St Mary's. I'm a Pompey lad. I had a real hard time over there. I support Newcastle, but obviously I've got a keen interest in Portsmouth. I love to see them do well and go to Fratton Park when I can with my brother and stuff like that. But I'm a Newcastle fan, but that holds no water over there. You get sent to a central Southampton station, and you're under the cosh. So you've got but that's life. You can't pick where you stay. And I've made some great friends. I had a fantastic time there, but they gave you a hard time. You wouldn't be able to get away with it now. But then the sub officer of a watch then, so there's a new kid on the watch, and I'm your age, I'm young 20s, and you go to like a fatal car accident or a fatal fire, you'd be frog marched up to see this, right? And I thought at the time, I'm praying I go through my career and see none of that type of stuff really. And he was a lovely guy, probably one of the best, sub-officers I've worked for. But there was this mentality and lack of knowledge about mental health and PTSD and the effects of seeing severe trauma on a regular basis was you become accustomed to it.
Yeah.
So the more that you see, the more you become used to it and the less effect it would have. So, and I can remember it as clear as day, being frog marched up to this car, this poor woman, and I just think, okay, and she passed anyway. So, we if there was someone that passed at a job, we would cover them over and try and respect dignity. We've got screens now, of course, that we put up. So to minimise that traumatic impact.
Yeah.
Whether it's people that are watching or members of the public or other people involved in it, and us, really. So there was nothing to do there. It was one of those sad calls, you can't save everyone. But so the trauma there would have been minimal, because some officer could have gone up, looked at the incident and thought, I'm so sorry lads, there's not a lot for us to do type thing. Cover over dignity, and then we'll do all the other bits we've got to do, but expose the whole crew to something traumatic when he would have been fine on his own.
Yeah.
So I think in life you can learn things from people on how to do good things, and I think you can also learn from people that don't do things well and think, well, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So then I'm a watch manager on my watch, and I wouldn't dream of doing that. So the minimum personnel I can expose to that traumatic risk has got to be the best way forward. I mean, naturally, we might need more people to do, end of life and care, emergency care and stuff, but I would try and keep that to a bare minimum.
What would your advice be to, say, if we've got a fireman that's watching this and like I say, they maybe struggle to process some of the traumatic experiences that they go through.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your advice to them to say, after that experience, this is what I would do?
So every station has a mental health first aider. So it's a 2-day course on the mental health first aid precaution.
Yeah, I just done mine.
Amazing. So when you do that course, I was super proud to do that course because I think you're delving into something that I don't know anything about. But when I strip it back and sort of gave myself the confidence to be a mental health first aider, you are just a guy that recognises abnormal behaviours or maybe a lull or a bit quiet, and then you signpost to somebody that can help that person.
Yeah.
So you're just almost a middleman, and I'm comfortable with that. If somebody said, can you go and have a chat with so-and-so for drug addiction or gambling, or he's going through, I wouldn't have the skill sets for that. That's a whole different thing. I would say talk to that firefighter. I would say definitely every station in Hampshire now has a mental health first aider, and they're available 24/7, so if it's not on your watch. So I would definitely say if there's a firefighter that's been through a traumatic incident and is struggling, mental health first aid station. So any fatality that we go to in the service, we get an email, it's called a TRIM email, Trauma Risk Incident Management Assessment. So you get an email that you have to reply to in the service.
Yeah.
So, and that would be simply if you're okay, if you're not okay, and if you're not okay, how would you like that interaction? So that can be via email, it can be text, it can be WhatsApp, it can be a phone call, it can be face to face. And that's forced on you from fire control. So they'll give you a list that I have to, if we went to a fatal, and it happened a couple of tours ago for us, we had 3 fatals in a shift. And I have to give the names to control, and then that whole process starts. We've still got a long way to go in the fire service, but if you look what we do now to what we did when I started, we're in such a better place really. But he's got to talk, George. So if there is a firefighter out there that's struggling with a specific incident or just his mental health in general, so mental health first aider, I'm hoping that there's good managers out there that'll be able to go and speak to their line manager, their colleagues. There's a lot of good people in the fire service. And we have 2 bolt-ons. So we have the Firefighters Charity, which are amazing, and there's a mental health support network within the Firefighters Charity, and we have a thing called Health Assured. So Health Assured is a 24-hour hotline to firefighters and their families on anything. So that's from feelings of suicide right through to you could pay your bills or gambling or drugs or everything that you can think of that would be main triggers to potentially cause poor mental health, or you just to be sad, or not quite right, and it's okay not to be okay, then phone Health Assured, and you get 6 sessions free, paid for by the service.
If you give us the details, we'll
yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
100%. So you are someone that you say you look to challenge yourself and you look to face things head on.
Mm-hmm.
How did this role and challenge come about?
So
first, you might want to explain what that was first, and then we can dive into how that came about.
So the world's toughest row is where you row across the Atlantic in an ocean rowing boat, self-sufficient. So you have to take enough food, you have to have the ability to make your own water. If it goes wrong, you have to have all of those safety systems. So you set off from, there's an island called La Gomera next to Tenerife, and you literally just keep rowing until you're here, Antigua. So it's basically the coast of Africa to the coast of America. And it's 3,000 miles. It's an organised event, so we didn't just go out there and think we're going to row. So it's like there is an event that organises it. And there is a safety boat, but that's a sailing boat that the fleet gets so spread out. I mean, I think last year when we started, it's on at the moment actually, this year's race is running now. I think it was 38 boats or 36 boats or something do it, and you can row as a 4, a 5, a 3, 2. Yeah, and me and Stu decided to do it as a pair. So that's the event, and it was all about raising money for 2 charities. So naturally the Firefighters charity, but specifically for the mental health side of the Firefighters charity. And then we thought, as firefighters, our job is not only to protect each other at an incident, would be to protect our community. So the fire service is there to look after you guys. Yeah. And we take that serious. So Stu made a decision with Adam, and I'll touch on that in a minute, to do Solar Mind as well. So every pound that we raised, 50p went to the Firefighters charity and 50p went to Solar Mind. So we're not only helping firefighters, we're helping our community as well.
Brilliant.
And Solar Mind do an amazing job. All charities for mental health are doing an amazing job. So if we wind it back, so Stu had a breakdown, so my rowing partner, nicest guy you'd ever meet, absolute legend, strong as an ox, had a mental breakdown. We had a fire where we lost 2 firefighters in Hampshire, which was really super sad. And that sort of really affected Stu. He donated a kidney, saved a life. Wow. Simply amazing. And after that, he told me that he never found himself. So he did a lot of work with people that do transplants and stuff. He lost who he was. He had a mental breakdown. He was off work for 8 to 9 months and wanted to take his own life, and that was it. And so he then woke up one morning with a eureka moment and thought, right, I've got to get back to the person that I was prior to breakdown, prior to kidney transplant. And he just Googled what would be the hardest thing on earth to do, and up comes the world's toughest row. So then the seed was sown. So neither of us were maritime guys and stuff like that. So then he was working with a guy, Adam Bundle, another absolute machine, one of the loveliest guys you meet, and those two set up the Minds Matter. So they set up and decided to row the Atlantic Ocean. So they trained really hard, they got a boat, they built all this boat themselves, and there's a lot of work to do, did all the courses and stuff. And then COVID struck, so the race was cancelled, so they waited a year. Bear in mind, they had a big sponsor from TUB, who are an amazing firm, but obviously TUB was saying, we were going to do this, we were going to do that. Then the next year, Stu hurt his back. So Stu hurt his back, so they deferred for another. So it's 2 years training they deferred. The third year, Adam, the other rower, had some personal issues, I think, with his family, his mother-in-law, and they deferred again. So now it's 3 years deferred, so sort of then the pressure's on. So then they went to go for a 4th time, 2022. So a conversation between Adam, Stu, and TUB, our main sponsor, said, we think it'd be wise to bring on a reserve. So that this year, we advertised it. And there's so many people who are invested in it, and that's one of the things I learned. I didn't realize how big it was. So there's lessons in life, really. So Stu and Adam phoned me up, and it wouldn't be that abnormal for me to go for a beer with Stu. We joined together, and we're great friends. So Adam and Stu said, Saj, do you fancy coming for a pint and have a chat with you about something? I said, okay, cool. And we went to the church inn just up the road there, and they explained all this row and said, Saj, you like a change, I think you'd be a good man to as a reserve, etc., etc. Sort of massaged my ego a bit. And without thinking, I thought, I viewed it like a settee, which I say this to people, but it's crazy. I said to Stu, I'll help you out, man. So it'd be like you phoning me up today, I said, can you give me a hand moving the settees? Of course I can, you know. It was just like that. I didn't really know what the row was. I said, of course I'll help you out. He said, right, get rowing, this is that, all the rest of it. These are 5 courses you have to do. So you can't just tell me you have to do night navigation, sea survival, trauma care at sea, VHF radio, what was the other one? There's another, ocean rowing course. There's 5 courses. You go away and do these courses. Get enough time in the boat, then you go. So this was in the January. It got to April and Adam pulled out. So, through personal circumstances. So, Adam said, look, I'm not doing it. So then, from being a reserve rower, and I was having a great time with these 2 guys. They're 2 of the nicest guys you meet. I've now got a seat. And then I sort of went home and I thought, what have I done? So, I looked on YouTube, because I'm one of these guys, if I do a marathon or do, you know, I did the Cockashuras route or Everest Base Camp, whatever it may be, I don't want to Google it, I want to experience it myself. Yeah. So I'm going to Iceland with my missus tomorrow, and we haven't looked at anything. So we get out there and it'll be a blank canvas type thing, you know? So the row, I thought, well, I better look at it. And I watched a video of it, and I thought, oh no, you know, what have I done? So genuinely, I thought, what have I done? Jesus. And I thought, well, do you know what? I've just got to do the training, get myself in the best nick I can, and, you know, to be out of your comfort zone is a great place to be. Yeah. So
it's where you, sorry, just touch on that, I think that's where you find yourself.
Absolutely you do, honestly. And I mean, and then we did the row, but I think when I go into schools and do the talk about the row is, I think there's 2 things with it really. There's some people, and I get really sad with this really, because there's people that will go through life and never truly know what they're capable of. Like that challenge you told me about you today, you're pushing yourself every single day. You know, your 75 challenge, and it's an amazing thing. You feel better, you see the rewards, you're ready to take on the world, you're ready for the next day, it's progress. Some people don't do that, and I'm not saying people have to. Not everybody has to row an ocean, but there's so many people that will go through life and never reach their full potential. And failure's cool. If you want to go and do something like a marathon and you bail out on 20 miles, but you stood up, trained and give it a go, that's progress. That's amazing. You don't have to win every time, you know?
I think so. I'll completely agree, and I think it's that what if question, and it's something that it just hang on you. And I used to do it a lot until I was able to sort of manage my anxieties. I used to live on what if I'd done this instead of that, and it is. And I think the other thing is just sort of being able to do things. And like you're saying, even if you don't complete what it is you're setting out to try and achieve, it's that fact of you go, you know what, I tried. And it's not failing, it's learning.
You have to fail and learn. I mean, in the school, I say that to kids. I think sometimes it's how something's sold to somebody. So I had a chat with some kids, and I said, if I said to the kids, on a day like this, where it's a bit gloomy and it's muddy outside and it's cold, and they'd sooner be on their Xbox maybe. But like, if I said to them, right, get your shoes on, get your boots on, right, we're going to walk up Butser Hill. Now, some kids have never walked up Butser Hill, but that's a challenge. That gets you blowing, no matter how fit you are, you know. Yeah. So let's go to Butser Hill, you know, and you see, you know, get to the top of Butser. So all I'm trying to do is get kids from the bottom to the top, aren't I? So now if I reword that, and I say to them, look, kids, I can take you somewhere, and get some fresh air, and at one point, a moment in time, you will be the highest person in the whole of Hampshire. Yeah. They said, what? You got their attention? Yeah. I said, I'll stand you on that trip point, and at that point, whatever the population of Hampshire is, you'll be the highest person. I think, well, how cool is that? Yeah. So the result's the same. It's sometimes it's how you sell it to people, you know? And yeah, and I just, and like with the row, I got in the row, and there's a really good friend of mine. He's an amazing guy, Dave Tingley. He's a watch manager on green at Caution with me. And before I went, and I always remember his comments, they said, Saz, you're going to do this, Saz, you're going to do that, you know, and all this, you'll get it, and all the rest of it. And I wasn't really nervous about the row. I always thought me and Stu could get across. He's a machine, and it'll put us over. But we got there, and before I went, Tinksy come up to me, and he said, Saz, he said, the minute you push off from that jetty, and you stick your oars in the water, you're a winner. So no matter what happens after that, he said, because you've actually got the balls to step up and have a go at it. And I thought, do you know what?
You've got nothing to lose.
Mate, yeah, you've got nothing to lose. You know, that person that wants to run a 5K, the minute they put their trainers on and step out that door, they're an absolute winner. And even if they walk 10 metres and didn't fancy it, it's 10 metres more than if they sat on the couch. Yeah. So you've got to reward yourself all through your life. So if you've done your 75 press-ups today or whatever, and you only do 60, pat yourself on the back. That's 60 more than you haven't done. Give yourself a pat on the back and do the 15 in 5 minutes time.
Yeah.
People put too much pressure on themselves. Like you don't have to win at everything. Winning, life isn't about winning really. Life's about having a go at it.
Yeah, because you only get and you only get one shot.
You get one shot at it, and people will, and that's my mission is, so Stu's mission is, we have 2 missions and it works so well between us. Stu's mission is losing that stigma of poor mental health. So if you're broken arm, I walk in the pub and say, George, look at me, mate, I smashed my arm, do you want to sign it?
Mm.
Now, if I was having a shocker and I was feeling really low and sad, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't come in the pub and say, listen, guys, I'm having an absolute man. You just don't do that. And you should be able to do that. There's no difference between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you should be able to do that. And the work you're doing and the work that Stu does is shout about it, speak to someone, and exactly the name of this. A problem shared is a problem halved, and I absolutely believe that. And if you share that with more people, that problem gets less and less and less until it eventually goes. It absolutely works. And that happens on a fire station.
Mm.
So you're never on a call on your own. So you talk to the crew, you talk to the watch. My watch sit down after that article. Yeah. So I might have took all of that on, whoever was with me at the job, but by the time we finish that shift, it's gone through 15 people. And that halved has halved and halved and halved. And I'm not taking that whole load home. You only take a bit of that load home.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's how it works. It's got to be like that.
I think it's just that. I think it's that understanding. It's like you saying, Luke, back in say your childhood, it wasn't as much as a thing, and I think it's good to see that you and at your age where it wasn't a thing in your childhood, to now recognise that, it's something that has become a thing. And it seems to, I think it's growing. I think whether that's because more people are aware of it or more people are affected by it, I'm not sure. But I think mental health is a subject that's being spoken about a lot generally. But I think the work that people are putting in place, I think is second to none, like you say, with Mind Matters and the charity work that you do, and what we try to achieve with this podcast, and your minds. I think it's just people's got to be that collective group of, we're all on the same mission of, one journey in life, and everyone has different walks in life. People go through different experiences. Who are we to judge someone else?
Absolutely not.
And who are we to look at someone and go, oh, your shoes are worn, you must be poor. But little do you know it's because they're going through domestic violence within their family and they ain't got money to buy a pair of shoes.
Absolutely.
And I think you don't understand how broken someone is until you have that conversation.
I think everybody's a little bit broke. I genuinely believe that. I think, like we touched on Facebook earlier and stuff, I think when I was a kid, that's all you had. My brother had the shoes that I had. When I wore out, and that was the childhood you had. But I loved it. I think I had one of the best childhoods ever. My mum done the very, very best she could, sort of thing. And I think mental health, I think it's numerous. I think is it on the rise because the work that you do, and me and Stu and people are a little, there's still stigma around it, but not as much as there was.
No, yeah.
And that's super important.
Yeah.
You look at Base Camp Gym, you look at Gary Birch and Mickey Parker. 2 of the toughest guys ever. And they'll be brutally open and honest about their struggles. And you do it in a different way, so they do it in a different way. And that gym's never been busier because, it's funny because Gary said to me once, and those two made a massive difference in my life. It's tied in with fitness as well. So I think poor mental health and poor physical health, I think there's definitely a link between the two.
100%.
I 100% believe that. I think so. You don't have to go with Gary and Mickey and get absolutely smashed for an hour, but that's for me, and I need those two to do that. But he once said this to me, see, with poor mental health sometimes, when I've been low, there's a feeling of loneliness. So you feel alone. And you might be physically alone, but from a support mechanism, you're never alone. And Gary said to me one morning, he pulled me aside, and he said, "Stan, I've got to have a chat with you." And I put in a shift as well, actually. And he gave me a compliment. He said, "For a guy your age, you put in a shift, Stan." So I thought, that's good. So actually, that morning I felt good about myself.
Yeah.
And he said, there's something not quite right. And he saw something behind your eye. So with him, he checks in on people in and outside of the gym. You'll get a message. If I don't go to the gym for 2 weeks, he'll message and say, Saz, everything okay, go on. And that's not from a financial thing, that's from a welfare point of view.
Yeah.
And that's lovely. You know, there's a lot of gyms that wouldn't do that sort of things. You know. And he said, I can see a darkness in your eyes, there's a sadness. And I was having a tough time at that time. And he said, I'm going to leave you with this. And I always say this to people that come and talk to me about stuff. He said, surround yourself with good people and you'll never ever be alone. And it's so true. You don't have to be physically sat next to someone. But if you've got that one number, or those people that you know, look, mate, can you put the kettle on, or we'll go for a walk, and that gym provides a base for lots of people. I think, I can't talk for everyone in base camp.
No, I've done the 6 week thing there.
Yeah, and you've got to come back, George. But it's a collection of people there, and it's not about how you look.
There's no judgment.
There's no judgment. There's no judgment. There's no muscles. There's no showing off and all this crap. You'll be out there in the shop. All of my friends from base camp go there for mental health.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And the maintenance of that.
And I think that 6 week thing that they set up, and I remember when I signed up to it, I was really, really struggling. And it was sort of, so basically when I'd suffered at the start of this year in January, I had poor mental health over Christmas. I said, right, okay, we're going to persevere, we're going to get through this and sort of look back in the mirror and say, you know what, I look at this person that I'm looking at.
Absolutely.
So I'd done the Goggins run in March.
With George here.
With George, yeah.
He's a lunatic.
He saw me out. He saw me out to it. He said he was going to be walking the park, but he weren't. He's a prick. So that was like 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours, and I wasn't fit one bit. And I'd done it, and I remember I pulled my calf on the first run. First run we done, and I didn't know anyone there. I only knew George and a couple of others.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, George waited for me, and he walked back with me.
There you go.
And I thought, I'll go again in like 3 hours. And I just stood there and bawled my eyes out crying because of that fear of, I wanted to push myself to complete this.
Yeah.
And I felt like I failed the first hurdle. And George just turned around and said, I'll walk with you every single one if we got to.
There you go.
And it's like you saying, surround yourself with good people.
And he's a good person. George is
he's a special person, yeah.
He's a young kid. And he's had his struggles, mate. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, George puts stuff on, and when you've got people like George, Gary Birch, yourself, and you put those people around you, you're almost indestructible, really, and you get that sense of belonging, support, and I think that's what's missing. The world can be a lonely place, but it doesn't have to be.
No, and
it doesn't have to be.
And I think surrounding yourself with good people, what that does is it gives you another perspective on situations where some situations, when you're suffering, it's you against your mind, and that's just one perspective on the situation.
Absolutely.
Whereas if you're surrounded by the good people, they give you them bits of advice. They might say, you know, I've been through this. This is natural, and you know, this is what I've done. So I think you learn off people a lot more than what you do. Like when I was struggling, I remember I was just Googling what can I do to better my mental health, and then I actually learnt more by signing up to that Goggins run, doing the base camp 6 weeks.
Absolutely.
Because that motivation you get from other people is a lot greater than the motivation you will read online. And
you'll find inspiration from some crazy places when you least expect it. Someone will inspire you. So Big Tone, have you touched base with Big Tone in the gym?
Oh yeah, Big Tone.
An amazing guy. An amazing guy. And he inspires, and he doesn't realise that. He's the loveliest lad you'll ever meet. And grinds it out, gets it done. No fuss. You know, his shorts are hanging down by his ankles. And he's sweating like a... But and me and Larry said to him, you know, Tony, you just... I go to the gym and someone like Big Tony inspires me. And I've told him that. You put in his shift all the time. Turns up all the time. Loves his mum. Always talking about his mum and doing Lego together and all this stuff. You know, and it's... Yeah, and that gym's been bloody good for me, you know. Because
I remember with Big Tone... when he was helping out, and George got me down at 5 o'clock in the morning
for the boxing one.
For the box bikes.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying, you'll be all right. He said, it'll be a bit tough, you'll be all right. I thought, okay. So I've done it, and I remember as soon as I got off, and my legs, they've gone, and you know that feeling of like feeling sick?
Yeah.
So I was experiencing that. So I ended up taking my top off and sitting out against the wall, trying to shock myself to bring myself back. And Big Tony was there and he was chuckling.
Yeah.
And I just went home and said, "You're making this a lot easier for me."
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's a fantastic guy, and I think that link between fitness and mental, I just think the two are linked so much.
I think if you look after your body will look after you.
I think so, but I think without any arrogance as well. I think you've got to have a good perception. So you've got to look in the mirror, and there has to be a starting point for everybody, whether that's the start of your life or start of feeling really low or the start of where you want to be. So, and then if you draw a start point for anything you do in your life, whether it's relationships, whether it's achievements, whether it's charity work, every day on from that would be progress.
Yeah.
But people start every single day. And I get New Year's resolutions and that, but say, I'm gonna, don't, even if you want to put an unrealistic challenge on, but I'm gonna run, don't put time limits on it, don't put distances on it.
Yeah.
Just don't beat yourself up. The fact that you're thinking about going for a run, even if you don't ever do it, the fact you're thinking about that is a positive step. That's progress. Yeah, and if somebody's got a problem with something, I say to people, if you're struggling from a fire call or anything that's going on in your life, you're worried about the situation and all this sort of stuff, but that's done. That's past tense.
Yeah.
There's no way that you can go back and alter anything. You get a decision. You can only alter what you do from that day on. You can't beat yourself up for things that you've done. Being naughty as a teenager, I could sit there and, and the irony is the guy, Phil Stairs, that got me to join the fire service, I used to nick his motorbike and go scrambling on it around the woods. And I mean, that's terrible, isn't it? And we laugh about it now. And I've turned out all good. And he lives in Newcastle. I go up and see him sometimes in Newcastle. He's an amazing bloke. But as a kid, I was nicking his motorbike, and you think, that's just not a cool thing to do. It's horrendous. And I'm embarrassed saying that, but I think if you've learned from that, that's not a good thing to do, and make yourself. But I'm dreaming of stealing anything from anyone now. So, and then he offers me, gets me to join the fire service, and it's strange that because sometimes you don't see the good in yourself, really,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think sometimes I struggle to take compliments sometimes, and I don't know if that's a toughness on myself sort of thing where I just always strive to do the best I can, and I'm just doing what I can. I don't need the praise. I'm just the mindset I'm trying to.
George, I'm exactly the same. I don't like compliments either. If you do a good job, even at a call or you help somebody or the old lady across the road or the work you're doing, I don't think. It just needs to get it done, and it's done.
Yeah.
You don't need all the fanfare, and I'm a bit like that. It's quite tough, and I don't know why that is. I've tried to look into that. So I went to counselling from a divorce, and they wanted to push on that really, why it was tough to take compliments, and I sort of bottled it really because they wanted me to go right back, and I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
They kept pressing, and it's a tough thing. But I think staying humble is a good thing. I think if you swan around like, I'm going to smash this row and I'm the lift the most weights in the gym and that, who's interested?
Yeah.
You get far more people that would offer you support for doing the work that you're doing, or raising money for charity, or just being a good bloke rather than showing off all the time.
What was that? Just want to sort of understand about the row. So was it 62 days? How many days?
So we took, we thought we'd do it in 50. And I think we would have done, but we hit 2 storms. So the first storm, so actually a year ago now, we just literally started running, and we were locked down for 4 days. So the weather was so bad, you just physically can't run. It's just survival, and you put out a power anchor and then just sit tight but you're in a cabin like me and you, and when you eat, you have to go to the toilet in there. It's horrendous, both of them. And he's the nicest guy in the world, and we stayed great mates. One of my best mates actually. So we were locked down for 4 days. But there's different mindsets. So the stew that I thought before we went was a different stew. So and you can probably relate this to life actually. It's quite interesting. Is so you're either a destination guy or you're a journey guy. So Stu, before we started the row, said, Sads, I can't wait to lose all my weight, have a massive great beard, get a tan, look great, and we're going to smash 3,000 miles, and we're going to have a drink, and we're going to do. So his reward is, and my mindset, I said, yeah, that's cool, Stu. So he's got this goal, right?
Yeah.
3,000 miles will get it done. And I thought, I can't do that. I just don't work like that, you know. So like, you can relate to a marathon. I'll celebrate when I get 26.2 miles.
Yeah.
And I've never worked like that in my life, right? So he's a destination guy. So he is solely focused on destination speed. The quicker he gets there, the quicker he gets his reward. So for me, I promised myself a few things. I thought, how do I approach this? If I approached it with that mentality, I'd have really struggled getting across. So I broke it down. So I thought, I consciously said, so you do 2 hours on and 2 hours off.
Yeah.
That changed towards the end because your bum hurts so much. It's so ulcerated and stuff. You have to do an hour. It's horrendous. You cry when you sit down after like the last 2-3 weeks of it. It's horrendous, George. So we did 2 hours and 2 hours off, and there's numerous things I put in place. I thought every time I do my 2 hours, we had a repeater on the cabin, and I mentally thought that is like a Big Brother camera. Sounds lunacy.
Yeah.
Big Brother camera, and my granddad, he's dead, but he's the main guy in my life, really. He's going to be watching every stroke, and I can't cheat. So sad to be honest, be consistent, and be truthful. Well, cool. I'm going to pull every shift. So I pulled for 2 hours. The minute me and Stu did a rowing change, and you can ask Stu this, I said, right, Sad, you smashed it. Not arrogantly, 2 hours done. So then in my mind, it was 2 hours less to row.
Yeah.
However many strokes I've done, that's how many strokes less it's going to be. And I always look back over my shoulder and thought, even if I rode a mile or whether I've smashed out 20 miles, I'm closer to the finish. So that's just progress. So every day I had 12 rewards.
Yeah.
Stu had no rewards. Yeah. When we got to halfway, so we got to 1,500 miles and the weather's horrendous, we saved a tub of Pringles and 2 cans of Coke, right? As a celebration. And that's, oh, George, just gold dust out there, mate. That is like, you know, the best meal you've ever had. And so we stopped, we pulled oars in for our family, said we're just going to sit and take in the moment. Pretty rough. I'm going to celebrate. Stu, he's jumping up and down, and he's celebrating Sad. We've got 1,500 miles to go. Everything's downhill for me. It's technically not, but I get what he means.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. And he was quite up then, because he had some real low moments. And I said, I'm not celebrating that. I'm celebrating that we've done 1,500 miles.
Yeah.
So we're both celebrating the same point in the ocean, but with 2 completely different perspectives.
Yeah.
And it works. So my life is about a journey. So go back to Tinksy's point. If I got in a boat and we failed, at least I tried it. Yeah. You know, like you go and do the Goggins run with George Eel and you pull your car. George, there's no shame in it. You tried your hardest to go and do it. There's people that wouldn't even try it.
No.
Give it a try. And failure's good. The next time you do that, you might have warmed up or done more runs, or you can make adjustments, you know?
Well, yeah, I'm hoping this 75 hard challenge sets me up nicely. I think it's March that they're doing it again, so hopefully I'll be in a better state.
If I was younger, I'd do it with you, but George would kill me, so yeah, I'm going to get it done. But yeah, so yeah, and it's just 2 perspectives on the road, but you go to some dark places and stuff, and then what I learned actually about myself was I split myself into 3 areas of health, and I think you have physical health.
Yeah.
So I think for the start of the road, for a man of my age, I was in all right health. I think my mental health at the time, not arrogantly, I think I was unbreakable. I was just focused, I'll get this done, doesn't matter what happens. You know, the boat or me would have to break not to get that done. But I think emotional health, and I think the emotional side of things is what I really struggle with on the boat. Mm-hmm. So I see, you know, before I went on the road, I probably see my mum once a month and touch base with my brother and, you know, my kids and all of this sort of stuff. And when they're a stone's throw away from you, it's all taken for granted. Yeah. When you're stripped away from that, and I was out and I didn't see any of my family for 3 months, I sort of appreciate it. So I'll go and see my mum a lot more now. I touch base with my brother a lot more. I try and do, you know, the right things and appreciate what you've got, because not from a negative point of view, but they're not. No one's going to be around forever. No. So you've got to do those things now. Yeah,
I completely agree. And I'll say this a lot, and I think it's probably the perfect time to sort of say that, you know, if you're someone that's watching this and you haven't heard from someone in a while, or there's someone that you would regularly speak to or see, and you feel like, you know, so basically what I'm saying is, who's the person you're thinking of when I say, have you heard from them recently? Go and message that person. Just go and check in on them, because you don't. the thing with mental health is a silent killer, and people suffer in silence. So you don't know what they're going through, and they might not be suffering, but just go and check in on them, because that one conversation or that one message could really save a life. So whoever you're thinking of, go and do it. Yeah, sorry, I thought that was a good point to.
Absolutely, and I think on from that, I think this time of year, it's a great time to start something, and it's a great time to touch base, to wish someone a happy new year that you might not have spoken to for a while. There's never a better time to reach out and just show someone that you're there, sort of thing. Really, I think, yeah, absolutely, it's that time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think it's difficult for some people. Look, we had at Mines, we decided to put our heads together and ask for food and toy donations for those that were lonely and suffering during the Christmas period, and we had so much stuff donated, and it really helped people. And we had one of the lads, his nan passed away, and she was the queen of the family, and we sort of, and there's only so much you can do, and like you say, that emotional support, and it's difficult because they know you're there, but you don't want to hound them. So we just went and got some vouchers and just said, look, take your 2 boys out, just go and do something with them, and don't be isolated in difficult times. Just sort of put one foot in front of the other, because the unfortunate thing is time doesn't stop.
No, but what a nice thing to do, and I think that's the stuff that should be shared. You go on, I don't know, Facebook in the morning, we'll put the news on and stuff. There's so much Ukraine, Israel, there's been a murder on the road the other night, and it can be oppressive. So either you try to shut that out of your life, or you have to balance life. So how many people know about United Minds and all of the good and all the presents? So if you look around, there's still lots and lots of good people in the world.
Yeah.
There's lots of good people. And they don't make the headlines. It's bad stuff that makes the headlines in sales papers. And again, when we talk about that pressure of Facebook and Instagram and stuff, those Instagram accounts are probably real, and you see so-and-so and this and that, and that's the very, very best of their lives. It's not an accurate reflection. And that puts pressure on people, to some people, if that's important to you. But that's the very, very best. And the news will only report bad stuff. They're not going to say, look at all this good work George has done, and he's made a difference to all these people at Christmas. Which really is strange, really, because it should be, because that will make lots and lots of people feel loads better. Rather than be worried about, there's been a fight or so-and-so, or somebody died here. And we got that wrong, really, I think. I think you need to share a lot more good news, or at least have balanced news, rather than... Yeah,
and I think that's why I know I did. I was really bad during lockdown. And it was just like that isolation, and every time you put the news on, it was COVID deaths and numbers rising, and we didn't know when we was coming out of lockdown.
Absolutely.
And that just drove me down, then took an overdose and ended up in hospital. And
that's tragic.
And it's like and I think that's what we just say. I think having that, I get a thrill out of seeing other people do well.
If you don't, then there's clearly something wrong with you. And if you see someone win a race, or, someone's face light up at Christmas that didn't have anything, you give them a present. If that doesn't warm your inside and give you excitement, then you've got a problem.
Yeah.
I think you've got a problem. But here's the thing on your journey, is that's super, super sad, and no one would ever want to feel like that, mate. But you've got to look over your shoulder now and do what I do and think how far you've come.
Yeah.
So actually, the irony, it's not a cool thing to do, and I don't advocate doing that. No. And I really, really feel for you. At that moment in that time, you thought that was the best option. But I'd argue that's probably one of the best things that's happened in your life.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Because look at where you are now. Look at the difference you're making. Look at the friendship circles you're in. You're making a difference to people that have got less than you. So your darkest day in your life, I guarantee you will be your most positive day.
Yeah. Okay.
Honestly, mate.
Yeah, thanks.
Just look where you are. I'm serious. And people don't see that at the time. So from that point, look where you've kicked onto. And you'll have slips and things that go wrong, and that's just life, but you've got to keep pushing on, mate.
Yeah. And on British days, you can correct me, but on your return from the row,
Yeah.
I think that might have been one of your brightest days too. Was it? Did you pop the question?
So when I got to the road, so my Mrs. Jo, she's amazing. And in actual fact, so in life, I'm not a selfish person, but rowing an ocean's really selfish.
Mm.
So, you know, I love my missus. And, but to ask her to support me, you crack on and do what you're doing, don't worry about me, sort of thing. And she was worried, and not go and row an ocean is a big ask. And that, when people talk about the road, there's lots of plaudits and say, oh, Craig and Stu done this, and oh, they're brilliant, and all this sort of stuff. When really there's a whole machine of people behind you, so everyone that sponsors you, everyone that works on our boat, everyone that donated £1, all the people that gave us the equipment. Stu's Mrs. Rach was the administration and fantastic work behind the scenes. Joe and my family for supporting me. So, and they get no plaudits, they get no camera time, and no one thinks they're great. But me and Stu can't row an ocean with that whole machine behind us. So that gets forgotten. But yeah, I couldn't wish for a better person, you know. And the strange part in the story was she had to take the ring, so it wasn't a surprise because I thought if I sink, there's a good chance of that. Or the boat where it rolls over and all that sort of stuff, I thought I can easily lose it. And the compartments are flooded, and our boat was terrible, really. So she brought the ring out, and what day did I arrive in Antigua?
Valentine's Day.
You got it. So I always try and tell her when you blow out of the water now, but I always try and tell her that I absolutely done it on purpose, sort of thing.
I love
Which
it.
isn't true. But so I did. And we're great. And she's my partner in crime. And again on that, you know, whether it's support networks, friendships, relationships, you're only as good as the people you support yourself, you know, you surround yourself with, and the support they give you. I'm not sure she's going to be so supportive with the Pacific, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, so that's on the radar for me and Stu, and we were probably looking at 25. So there's a boat actually doing it at the moment, Mermaid Atlantic. They're a lovely bunch of guys, local from the Isle of Wight. This goes out and the next goes, give them a follow. They're amazing blokes and they're doing amazing stuff for charity. And they've got a lot of our equipment. So we've still got like life rafts and life jackets and power anchors and all this sort of stuff. So that comes back. And then me and Stuart start the 2-year process again. We'll keep the Minds Matter, name for the boat and the movement that Stu and Adam have started. We'll probably do it as a 3. So we'll look for another rower. Get rowing, Georgie, and then we're probably going to do 2025. So we'll have a go at the Pacific.
Yeah, nice.
You can edit that bit, so Joe
can hear
it if you want.
Is there question? Is there strong winds out on the and?
So yeah, and there's a learning point. So like we can only train in the Solent and stuff. So you go off the back of the Needles and the Nab Tower, and we row over to Swanage, and we go up to Brighton, and it's really strange because I'm not a maritime guy, so. I do a bit of kayaking with my aunt, but like, so you think out there, and I can remember being in the Sadler thinking, God, it's a bit choppy and a bit rough and all the rest of it. And so if I had one bit of advice for anyone that's going to do it, is you've got to get in big waters. And I would imagine, I don't know, maybe the North Sea, but going out the back of the Solent in like a 10, 11, 15 metre wave, when you get mid-Atlantic, and some of those wave heights are 40, 50 foot, and ridiculous heights. So I don't know, that was a bit of a baptism of fire. If you looked at what's the main thing that sort of was a wow factor out there? I mean, the sky's beautiful.
Yeah. And
let's cut to the chase. It's an absolute privilege to do it. Not many people get to do that. So that sky, that isolation, that loneliness, and I'll tell you about a peanut story in a minute, but the wave heights are immense. So 6, 7 stories high, and thinking, you know, like the cover of A Perfect Storm?
Yeah.
The film, it's not a pub story. It literally is like that, and I think, well, where on earth could you train for that? And you couldn't. You just have to be in it and just pray the boat holds up, and you're doing all right sort of thing. You come out of the boat, and you've got to be tethered all the time. So you have a tether on all the time. So you get knocked out of the boat, you get back in. If you didn't have your tether, you're done. You'd never get back in. And it's funny because we had a power failure quite early on. Actually, all our power went, and because you've got batteries and salt water, and we had a problem with our solar panels and stuff. So the race probably could have been over about 2-3 weeks in. But we managed to work through it. So there's a message that you can work through problems and still end up achieving something.
Yeah.
You know, so we lost a couple of days there. But you have to phone Race HQ then, so they keep an eye on you. So Stu Fund Race X considered we've got total loss of power. So that means you can't make water. If you can't make water, then you're on a clock to survival then basically.
Yeah.
So you have to manually try and make water, and that's such a workout with almost like a bicycle type thing. So he phones Race X, said we've got total loss of power, we're going to try and work through it, try and sort it. You know, it's good being a firefighter rather than panicking. We'll work through that problem. And we can do that quite well. And they said, do you want us to initiate a rescue for you? And Stu was on an hour, and I said, Stu, just give us 24 hours and let's have a look at it. It's not got enough water on it now to last a couple of days. So we've got 2 days at least. And we worked through the problem. But at that point, how close do you think the nearest vessel to us was for a rescue?
A couple of days.
4.5 days. So if at that point we needed a rescue, the closest vessel was 4.5 days away.
Yeah.
And you think, then, so at that point it sort of put it in perspective really for, God, you know. And I think something in life actually, it's just, I was going to tell you the peanut story, was everything in life's relative. Yeah, so if you're Conor McGregor, you can afford to have a £250,000 watch. It's all relative. You know, we'd end up with a Swatch or an Apple Watch or something. You know, that's that scale. But one of the best presents I've ever had was from Stu. So this is the measure of the guy, right? And we're rowing and we've done all our food. So we didn't really eat for the last 14 days, okay? So we're running on an hour on, hour off because the bums and our hands are in absolute bits, yeah. So we're still pulling away, putting in a shift. And it comes to my rowing break, and I've just done my hour, I come off, Stu comes out, and I go in the cabin, and there's a little note, Sads, and there's, you know the packs of KP peanuts?
Oh, yeah.
You get in a bar. Half a pack of them, smack bang in the middle, and he saved me half a packet of peanuts. And I could feel myself getting emotional now. It's a packet of peanuts. You go and buy them in a pub for whatever, yeah? So I sat there, and the feeling I got from him leaving me half a packet of KP peanuts in the cab was just like, you'd have to buy me a mark on Escort Mexico now to recreate that feeling in today's society.
Yeah.
But we were so isolated, so I emptied them out into a tub, I broke them in half, and I ate one, sucked the salt off of it, and then like swallowed it sort of thing. And it took me an hour to eat half a packet of peanuts and savoured the moment. And when you look back at the row, and if you gave me a highlight, so that's what's your highlight this year, it wouldn't be finishing a row.
Bit peanuts.
It'd be eating peanuts in the cabin. So there, the feeling I got from eating half a packet of peanuts, will I ever recreate that feeling in my life? And I don't know. But just his selflessness, generosity at a point when I was absolutely starving, and just that sentiment of he could have ate the whole packet, I would have been none the wiser. But that gift of sharing, a little bit of energy for me, and sharing something, it just blew me out of the water. And we often talk about the half a packet.
What a bloke. I'd love to just look at him and just if he's do you know what, if he's watching this, I just want to say you are an absolute legend. Do
you know, if you're going to put this out, this guy Stu, he's having a really, really tough time at the moment, a proper tough time. And if you say that to him, he'd be absolutely made up.
And if he watches this, and you know, Stu, if you're suffering, then I think I speak for us both, and I'm sure I speak for many people when I say you're not alone in what you're going through. Absolutely. And we might not have the answers, but we've got a pair of ears and a shoulder. So keep being you, mate, and keep being the legend you are, and speak up and don't suffer on your own. Craig, I think that was enjoyable, and I think you are, in my eyes, you're someone that is inspirational. I think just your persona and the way you are as a person, I think is second to none. You're humble, courageous, and you've inspired me in this, however long we've been chatting for. You've left me with a lot of stuff to take away, and I'm sure it'll keep me going for the, especially like the 75-day thing that I'm doing. But I want to thank you personally, and I'm sure Jack behind the cameras will say after this just how good it was. I wish you all the best, and we're local, so we'll definitely catch up. And
thank you, mate.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks for having me.